Hi there. Welcome to the Right Here, Right Now live show. This show has one simple question. What's on your heart and mind right here, right now in this moment? We explore the depths and breadths of our humanity through that one simple question over the course of 30 to 45 minutes. I hope that you'll join us. I hope you'll enjoy the exploration. And this tune was created for me personally by the incredible Peter Griffiths, one half of the amazing Mind Takeaway. Do let us know what you think. Let us know what you take away. And of course, we always welcome challenges too. Hope to see you on the exploration. Hello, hello, hello. Welcome. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. And most importantly, hello, Pauline Crawford. How are you?
Hello, Gary Turner. So good to see you. Only 7 hours away from me. You realize that?
It's so lovely for anyone that's watching us. You know, if you watch us live or watch us back, we appreciate you joining us. So Pauline and I think you were actually my first international person I saw, sort of as we're exiting, hopefully, COVID. Like we actually met in person in Brighton a few months ago.
Oh, I know, and that was magic. It was a very beautiful hot day in July, and we went to the pub in Brighton, and we actually had a hug. I think that was allowed.
We were allowed. We were allowed.
We did wear masks for about 2 seconds, and we were very correct. But it was absolutely magical to actually meet in person. And there's something about this curious world that we have where we're on screen all the time, and we're meeting people at a soul level across the world, and that we're not actually touching, although we touch each other's hearts. So yeah, it is magical. It is magical.
Oh, so cool. Well, thank you for coming back on again. You know, you joined, Mike Vicente and I previously on the Value Through Vulnerability podcast many, many months ago. And I guess I'd love for you just to introduce yourself. I know you really well, but there might be people joining us either live or watching this back, Pauline, that don't know you yet. So please do take a couple of minutes just to introduce yourself and what you're up to these days.
Oh, a pen sketch. I am Pauline Crawford, known as Dr. Pauline Crawford, the conversation maker or the ambassador of magical conversations. And I'm a Brit. I was born and brought up in London and lived various parts of England, but I now live in America, and I've traveled the world, and I've lived in Malaysia, and I've worked there, and I've done all sorts of adventurous things. But my heart and soul is in understanding people, and understanding how people respect differences, and how we tune into each other, and how we don't tune into each other, and why do people have arguments when I see it as a waste of time. I think that we're here to co-create something magical for our future. We've been given this opportunity, this curious opportunity of COVID and pandemic, and not meeting until we're on screen or in a pub in Brighton. But there is magic afoot, and I think magic opens up our hearts. So that's what I'm really about at the moment, is how we can open up our hearts, not just in our own individual lives, but in our lives together, in the business world and everywhere. And I just think it's such an opportunity. I've been around a long time, Gary. I'm in my 72nd year, my 73rd year, I believe that would be for next year. But anyway, the point is that we all have the opportunity now to share from our hearts and our wisdom and our authentic power, which is what I'd like to share with you.
Beautiful. Thanks for the introduction. I just want to say this is how the universe works, right, Pauline? Deborah Hartung, an amazing human being, has just moved to the UK from South Africa, and she's one of the only few other people that's come internationally that I've had a hug with. So look at this. So Deborah saying,
well, hi, Deborah. That's fantastic.
Hugs are the best. It's been wonderful to get face to face again. Yeah, absolutely, Deborah. So good to see you. Thanks for joining us. So there's one key question. You've introduced yourself, Pauline. I guess you've sort of given us a little bit of a hint what's on your heart and mind, but what particularly in this moment really is pressing, in whatever way on your heart and mind right now, right here in this particular moment?
What's really, really pressing, and this has come to me over the last few weeks, and some of the sessions I'm doing with global communities, is this idea of the power grid. So what is the power grid of humanity, and what is it authentically as opposed to authoritarianly? We tend to think of power as bad, as controlling, as corrupt, as greed, and it is. But if we look at our authentic power source, which is within us, which we carry around every day, that's what I want to tap into. It's like, you look at the electricity grid across the country, it works because everything's connected. You plug something in the wall and it works. You tune into somebody and it works. You hug somebody and you feel the magic. You dance with somebody, you're tuning in. It's a power source. So how can we use that for humanity to really understand that business and life and family and love, it's all woven together through our own authentic power?
I love it. It's such a beautiful inquiry, Pauline. And I think, from my side as someone that works, deeply still in corporate, in the chemicals industry, still a very extractive industry, heavily grounded on the power that we're used to, i.e., electricity power,
Yes.
oil and gas power. But there's a very few people hold the cards that control that huge infrastructure. So what I'm hearing and what I'm sensing is this real opportunity to, what would it be like to release the clenched fists of the few and then allow that power, or allow the power to come from the inside out in a connected way to the many? Is that what you're speaking to, or something different?
Absolutely. And I've tried it out with some groups and people respond to it in interesting way. You ask women, they tend to internalize it, and often it can become fear-based, but then we understand that it's something that they can just shine, whereas men often externalize it, interesting enough. But it's really getting to grip with the word power, because we've used empowerment, empower people, and we see, maybe, as I say, authority power as bad. But if we look at authentic power, and power as a source, as you say, if you plug something in the wall and it works, there's something that goes between us that it's like when you hug, and you feel the energy of another body. It's magical. So that's almost the same as plugging something into the wall and expecting electricity to work. What would happen if we had no electricity? What would happen if we couldn't turn everything on? We'd be done for. We live in this world which is supported by power sources, that we're walking around with this amazing love, compassion, respect, resource, and everybody's seeking that. And I'm very passionate about, how do we connect the wires? How do we connect the threads? How do we ripple together? Because in a magical conversation, there is no judgment. We expect the source to come together, but we're sitting around the campfire or we're sitting around the table. We're all different. So we've got different power sources. And that's really where if we understand this as a power grid, and then we understand the different power grids that men and women and different diversities have, we can start looking at creating a different power grid. So my passion is not fitting people into the old game, but creating a new game. Does that make sense?
Oh, it does. Because there's a word I'm using a lot at the moment, Pauline, which is reimagining. And I sense this is what you're speaking to, which is like, how do we reimagine a new co-created power grid and stop trying to change the old? It's like create something new rather than try and retrofit into the old.
Yeah. Well, there's some famous people who've always said that, and I can't quote it, but if you use the same tools that made the problem, you're going to keep on making the problem. What's interesting with electricity, and I don't know this for sure, but we don't really know how electricity works. It's a phenomenal energy source, and yet the most phenomenal energy source is people, and we see that when people are angry. So, for anybody saying, oh, this is rubbish. Well, look, to be honest, come on, when people are angry, you see that power source emanating, and unfortunately it emanates into violence and all sorts of not good things. So what about the energy source of love? And this is not pie in the sky. This could be in the boardroom. It could be in the family, could be in society. Dare I say, could even be in politics, but we won't go there today. But, we live in this resourceful world, and nature is wonderful. Nature actually supports itself even when it has natural disasters. It's amazing how the earth will reconfigure and start working back again. Why can't we take examples from that? And this is where I love conversations, because when you're in a conversation when it's and maybe you're an argumentative person, so you go for you retire into yourself and you don't even get involved and you stop listening. That's also a misuse of personal power. And the reason I use authentic power is being authentic is really the key. And that's different for all of us. And it's the same for all of us.
Oh, this is so rich, Pauline, because I'm thinking about the practicalities of this. As you say, I still think if you look at, certainly in the corporate space, you've been in corporate spaces, I'm still in it, as well as, doing work on the outside as well. And there's something to do with language, Pauline, for me.
Oh, yes.
With this as well, because to use the word love in the boardroom or in the workplace, it brings up a different reaction depending on who you're talking to. And I think, rightly or wrongly, but the same word could be connection, or it could be listening.
Absolutely.
And I guess there's something about being playful with the different words to try and get to the same outcome.
Well, it is definitely. And I think words are so important, because, to be honest, every single time we utter anything, it's open to misinterpretation, even from your nearest and dearest. And that's why it's important to be not measured, not controlling your words, but really listening and speaking and flowing. And if something doesn't gel, actually saying, was that something that didn't gel? What did you understand by what I said? Oh, no, actually, I didn't mean that. And I study individuals under my work with gender dynamics intelligence. And, to be honest, whichever gender you identify with, it makes an impact everywhere you go. It makes a dynamic. You walk into a room, do you own that space in an authentic power situation and view everybody else as conduits to the power grid in the room? Not in a vicious way, but in a energy source. So a good energy source. And if people are nervous about the word love, then let's words like respect and trust and integrity. And the key is to ask people, invite people, what does that mean for you? And that's the essence of a magical conversation. So even the word respect, you and I might have a slightly different context to it. You're a man, I'm a woman. You're a different type of man to the very masculine male man. You're my intuitive philosopher. I'm a very masculine-minded woman. I'm my magician. So I have these archetypes to help us understand, if I say the word respect, does it actually resonate in the same way? And then listening, as our friend Jane will tell us, listening to, did that feel okay? Did I sense a flow? And I think we've had a word I want to bring up is that we've had the word mindset for many decades now, and I would like to replace it with mind flow. Because mindset actually is quite a rigid concept, whereas mind flow indicates this infinite, imaginative, curious world. And again, we might occasionally need to slow down and make sure we get the task done, but let's flow around them. This is the magic of men and women coming together. And I just read an article this morning once more about the fact that although we know that women in the boardroom make a lot of difference to business, we still don't have as many numbers there as we can do. Why is that carrying on? So my view is that we're not in a flow about it. We keep on trying to change the players on the old plan. We need a new plan which doesn't have those problems. And that's what I'm passionate about. So I do a lot of work about creating our future together and listening to each other, and then recognizing the words that we say, if they're misinterpreted, they could turn into difficulties, but actually they're not really difficulties. They're just differences not understood.
I love this. I love this. Love this. Deborah's just shared as well. She agrees. Like, I think we need to learn that love is not only romantic in nature.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's so spot on, Deborah. And I'm just really fascinated. I love this whole. You've really got my juices flowing, Pauline, around this reimagined power grid, because it is, because everything's nodal, right? We're seeing that now with the, as we've gone through the pandemic. We have got this technology which is brilliant, as we discussed at the beginning. There's something about don't want to use the word hybrid, but there's the amalgamation of online and in person.
Yes.
And it's sort of being conscious of, what energy are you bringing to the space? So like we're in this beautiful co-created exploration virtually,
Yes.
and then we were together in person, but the energy can still be different, right? We could connect as much now, and
Absolutely.
even less so in person, depending on what we're bringing into that space. So I just think there's something about being super conscious around what our body's telling us and not just what our head's telling us as well in all of this.
Yes. And I want to pick up something because it's really important. It's about the space that we inherit. Like we're in this space with StreamYard. So this is a technology, we're in this space together. But when we walk into the breakfast room and we meet our loved ones, or we walk into the boardroom, or we go into the shop, we walk into a space. And I want people to understand, like I talk about magical conversations are a topic is in the space between us. Whereas most people own the topic and then they go, well, this is my view, so you need to get on board with me. Actually, no, that if you place the topic in the space. So when we look at work cultures, whether they're hybrid or in the office, they're a space. So it's a bit like being on a Zoom call where half the people won't put the cameras on. I find that really distressing because I'm very visual and I'm not very auditory. So I need to see faces. It's like the old thing, where do I sit at the boardroom table to get the best vantage point with the boss? Well, maybe all the tables should be round.
Yeah. Love that.
I mean, this is what I mean about thinking through again. The pandemic has given us something which said nothing that we had before is going to be the same. So why not do something different? Think in circles. I mean, this is one of the things women do. But what's interesting, and it was a sad point of reading this article this morning. There was a lot of comments saying, oh, but as women, I just really don't get on with female bosses. So there was actually quite a bit of conversation about the, dare I say, aggression between women. Now, maybe that's not aggression between women. That's because the game is wrong. It's like we're playing Monopoly and we don't want to play Monopoly. It's creating another mainframe. And this is what I look at, is the mainframe is not square anymore. It's a circle of life. And in that circle of life, we've got some squares and some circles, we've got some squiggles and we've got some slight angles. And this is what conversation is about when you have loads of men and women of different diversities in the room. It's great. It's not a problem. I think, dare I say, a lot of inclusion and diversity policies are looking at it the wrong way.
God, you're sparking so many other directions we can go, Pauline. I just want to say hello to Arlene, who's joined us as well. Placed a topic in the space. Great catch, Arlene, and wonderful to see you here with us.
Hi, Arlene.
And please do, if we've still got Deborah, Arlene, anybody else, if you've got questions for Pauline, please do put them in the chat. I'd love to put them to Pauline. If you'll get any other reflections, do share with us. We like to try and make this as interactive as possible.
Let's talk about your reimagine.
Go.
Okay, so reimagine that every boardroom, every meeting has a round table. And when we start meetings, we know who the characters are. So even if we take my baseline characters, we know who is the magician, who's the sovereign of the women, who's the ruler and the philosopher. If everybody needs to know more about this, then contact me about these characters. But you've got these different characters, and they might be old or young, or from different cultures, from different backgrounds, different abilities, different sexual preferences. All of that comes into it. But we have a sense of the power grid, the good, authentic, love-based power grid in the room. We've still got a topic to deal with. That's in the center of the table. And somebody's leading, and depending on which character is leading, we tune into the agenda because we also want a result. But we have some joy along the way. And that's the thing is, I find when people get used to my archetype, say, oh, yes, oh, my God, I was in the room and the ruler was being very bullet point, but we managed to help him understand that we had a good idea as well. And he said, oh, yes, let's do that later. So, there is a way of retaining ourselves. That's why I don't want everybody to be the same. That would be my worst nightmare. We're not all the same. We're beautiful human beings. We're uniquely equal and different. But as we understand each other, we understand the bits that come together, we create real synergy. And actually, we solve problems by not solving problems, by creating opportunities. So we become opportunity seekers in this new world that I see ahead. And that's what you are. You're an opportunity seeker. By the by, it might solve a problem, but actually it's looking at what's the opportunity here and what talent can we use and how we can look at business end to end, which obviously includes customers. There's a reality to the people, planet, profit, which actually is very sustainable growth. And that's what we have to look at. So I can be very pragmatic here as well. And that's why love is the electricity energy source for the power grid.
God, it's so good. And hey, Francisco's joining us as well. Appreciate you coming along, my friend. Yeah. So do you know what I love, Pauline, about you? Right? 72. Shut up. Anyway, it's not about age, but like it always blows my mind. But more importantly, I love the fact you bring it so practical, right? It's like this, you're not talking about this work you care about just to be sitting in the corner going rah, 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 playing with a football table. Like we're talking about real connection, real results in line with nature's systems. If we can just get out of our own way.
Right? Absolutely. And we used to use our best talents. Now, I love geometry and I love simultaneous equations, and my best subjects at school was maths. So it comes from there, but it's applying it. So I applied that in my life to dressmaking or making business or making my gender dynamics intelligence map, which you've seen. And anybody who would like to see more of that, just send me a note and I'll send it to you. But I used my best strengths to solve an issue that I had, which was to know who I was as a woman. So I think if we each know that our journey comes from our own story, but we don't labor it, we use it to be practical. And that's part of who I am. I'm often in my head. But as a female, obviously I'm in my heart, but I like to live in my head sometimes. Sometimes I have to come down to my heart. But that's where I go, why aren't all the boardroom tables round? I mean, King Arthur had it right. And that would at least solve this authority position. Should I sit next to the boss? Will I be more important if I'm there? What? We don't need to be more important than anybody else. We just need to be doing what we do best for the reason that we're there. Obviously, there has to be a conscious reason to do with the business or the family unit or the society or the association. And that's where all these lovely skills like listening and tuning in and being yourself, which is one of the biggest skills we have to deal with all of our life. And I don't think I know everything yet. When I'm 95, I'll come back and we'll have another conversation.
I'll still be here. You'll be fine. I'll still be here. Yes, but
we might be robots, but no one man.
But you know something, I'm not scared. Like I say, Arlene, I know it works in the tech sector. I'd love for her to chip in with this if she's still around. But I'm really excited about all these different right? If I weave together what we've discussed so far in the last 24 minutes, we've got stuff here around, being clear on who we are, doing the inner work, knowing who we are, what we're here to do, being intentional about how we design our workspaces and places, make them more circular, make them more inclusive. Think about ourselves as an energy cell individually and collectively. How we, what's the exponential impact of plugging in a full battery? Yes. Each one of us being a full battery into that cell, rather than so many of us only being at 10% for a whole range of reasons. Like all of that is possible without spending an extra dollar, right?
Yeah.
If we set it up right, we don't need to spend millions on consultants and third parties. We just got to come together and reimagine.
Absolutely. And that's what I think is amazing, is the things that we have for free, we're not using. Our imagination, our ability to love, our ability to deal with crisis, which will turn up, even if it's falling over in the park or somebody being in the car and cutting you up, somebody being a little bit nasty, but maybe because they don't mean it. We have control, that's free. If we choose it for negative, for bad, for anger, I just think it's just very dangerous and very wasteful when we could be using it for good. So there is a theory that, out of conflict, there's good, but only if we seek it. So in all of these things, it's about understanding what would be the resistance of men in the boardroom or women in the boardroom for the word love. Having a conversation about what is the power source of love, which will energize this business. And we actually know there's lots of businesses that actually do use love in their advertising, their branding, their relationship with customers. But oh yeah, that's different. No, it's not. It's the same. It's just another version of this flow of energy that comes into the business. And I think I would like to think that most people actually want that kind of energy life. Mm-hmm. They just don't know how to get it. Or I think Deborah said earlier, it's love or fear. And if it's fear of the unknown, then helping them to understand it's okay and not treating them as if they've always got a full battery. I mean, you just mentioned a battery, and some people have a battery that energizes by being energetic, and others have a battery that slows down to zero as they use all the energy. So you've got to be aware in a meeting, like I might say, Gary, I think you need to go and charge your battery. Just pop off for half an hour. That's fine. And you would appreciate that.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's beautiful. And Arlene, thank you. Look at this. What a beautiful share. So inner work, intentional on how we design our conversations. I found that energy plus words plus vulnerability plus clarity can lead to incredible and dynamic and breakthrough dialogue.
Absolutely. I'll give you a simple example. I came across with a guy I was interviewing who was a teacher in an autism school in Canada. And he said, well, at the end of the day, I go back home and I just think about the conversations I've had and I just log them in my head. And I think, I'm not sure that was right. Maybe that was. And in the morning, I just check in with other teachers, say, oh, was that conversation we had yesterday okay? And if they say, oh, yeah, that's fine. If they say, well, actually, then I can remedy it. But that shows you that conscious, intentional attitude to understanding that people are different. And that's the biggest thing, I think, is people, everybody's going on about almost we should all be equal and all be the same and don't look at differences. I go the other way. I say, no, love differences, respect them, get to know them, and understand that nothing is difficult. It's the difference not understood that becomes difficult. It's understanding the beauty of individuals' contribution to what you're doing together.
Did anybody else just catch that? I hope if anybody's watching that, was it differences misunderstood is what causes?
Yeah.
It's the way you said it. It was beautiful.
Well, if you think about it, and this is a classic thing, and anybody can try it. If you've got a room full of 100 people, ask them, how many of you are difficult? On average, in an American audience, you'll get 10 people who put their hand up. In a British audience, probably about 3.
So true.
Not everybody will, but then you ask them the question, so how many of you know a difficult person? How many hands do you think go up? Everybody's. And I say, because I'm a mathematician, I say, okay, how does that work? There's only 3 people who are difficult in this room, and yet you all know a difficult person. It's actually a difficult situation. So if I don't really understand something, or I think you're so different to me that creates a difficulty, it's not really a difficulty in the person, it's in the space between us. And so if you have 2 polar opposite people, a right and a left, actually they're exactly the same. If they're polarized by their view and they're stubborn and angry, I consider those 2 people to be absolutely the same. And you might say, but their content is different. Okay, but they're stubborn, they're polarized, and they're not getting together. So for me, It doesn't make any sense to consider them different.
That's amazing. Do you know something? I've got to share with you, Pauline. You're going to love this. So someone's just been tapping. Come here. Someone's been tapping on my leg.
Yeah.
Oh, she's run away. Winnie the Cockapoo. I've got to share her with you, Pauline.
Yeah.
She wanted to say hello to you. Live. This is live TV. There
Oh,
she is.
hello. This is wonderful.
This is Winnie the Crazy Cockapoo. She's definitely full. This is my example of unconditional love. This dog, honestly, no matter what your mood, what the weather, honestly, there's always love there. And there's so much to learn from nature and animals, I'll tell you. Just totally unconditional, Pauline.
It is. And I have a dog, and she is like that. She's just totally unconditional. And we're just staying with my husband's sister, and our dog's been looked after by somebody else in the family back in Las Vegas. But here there's a little dog, and he is so unconditional in his love. You're absolutely right. And that's why I think human beings do need to get out of their own way sometimes. But I think this whole journey of understanding our uniqueness, so some people are extroverts, some people are not. Some people want to hide in the corners, but they might have the brilliant ideas. Some people want to care everybody in the room to smothering limits, and then other people want to be on their agenda and do all the bullet points. It's maybe all of those are part of the mix. So you imagine it. I don't know whether Monopoly is the right example, but you imagine it like a game. I don't know, snakes and ladders. I don't know whether everybody knows snakes and ladders, but any game has a board, and it has a game board. It has pieces, and it has rules. And that's what I'm doing in my wisdom circle sessions at the moment. And I gather people from every country in the world that I can invite and say, how would we create our future together? Understanding that we're all unique individuals, not just because of the gender dynamics, but also because of our culture. I work with people in Malaysia with a very different culture to America and to England. I'm working with women in South Africa, again, very different culture, but we're all people, and women are women and men are men. And even with all our sexual preferences, what I do is I put everybody inside the circle of life. So nobody is excluded right from the baseline. So my map is in fact a game. And I am currently creating an app which will help us understand this in a kind of game board way. But it is about the words that we use and the understanding. I give you the classic example that, if somebody is very into tasks, say it's the ruler and he's got bullet points, and that's his métier for this meeting, and the women in the room don't like that, then they might get upset. But if they say, well, this is his handle, let's treat him in the way that it happens. Understand he's got 3 bullet points. I've got a great idea, but I'm going to place it at the right time. And I would instruct him to say, that the women have great ideas. They may not be on your bullet points, but just honor that at the beginning and say, let's find time at the end to look at any ideas. Just very simple statements can give people a mission, because what happens then is they stay in the game and they listen. Whereas if we come in with our own agenda and we go, he's not listening, she doesn't care, she talks too much, he's under the table, what the hell's going on? It's not a magical conversation.
Beautiful. Beautiful, Pauline. Do you know something? As we're going to start to wrap up now, I just think it's so stunning what you're sharing for me, because there's just, I keep coming back to that beautiful statement of yours, which is, if we can see almost the space in between us, almost like a third party looking in, rather than the thing that's getting between you, like there's so much more potential if we can place the disagreement, the idea on that table and both look at it together. Like what a different approach that's going to be, instead of me going, Pauline, you've got the thing and I want it, or I've got the idea and I want to share it with you. Like if we can put it on that table in between us or at the side of us, that's just such a beautiful image for me. Such a beautiful image.
This is the mission for my bigger mission is Corporate Heart International, which I've run Corporate Heart since 1999. And the idea is that it is about opening up the heart of people in business to have those magical conversations, to share. And it won't always go easy, but if we go in with the right intention, I believe we can create a beating heart in an organization, which is engaging everybody, leaders and followers, all employees. But the leaders need to understand the magic of what's available now. Let's call it post-pandemic, that we're designing a new way of being that will enhance our life at work. And if anything that women have brought into the workplace, it is that energy of life. And I believe men do want that. And in all my conversations with wonderful, wise philosophers and wise rulers, they do want that. And it's time to get our conversations together. So if anybody wants to join our wisdom circle, we run these twice a month, but one will embrace UK timing and one won't because it's in the middle of the night. But I've got those available on my LinkedIn. We can find those. And we got to do this together. We've got to do this together.
So stunning. Please check out below. I think it is below. There we go. You can see Pauline's details. It's been running across the ticker throughout this discussion. As you can see, amazing human being, amazing energy. I just really appreciate you, Pauline, and everything you're doing. And I will get along to more of the wisdom circles in the future. It's just brilliant the work that you're doing. I just want to say thank you before you have the last word, just want to say thanks to everyone, to Arlene's popped off, to Deborah for joining us. Hope I'm pronouncing your name correctly. Gabe, I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing it incorrectly. We'll need to have a chat sometime. Just beautiful. So I'd like to leave the last word. What's your final invitation or reflection for people as you go into the rest of your day today?
I think the thing is to understand that everything in your life comes from your source. So to think about your authentic power source within you. And maybe the question to end with is, what is your power source super gift? What is it you do best that you will bring to that table where we plug everybody in and we create this humanity power grid? Because we need you.
Wow, what a call. I love it. Please check out Pauline's details, Pauline Crawford on LinkedIn, and also check out Corporate Heart International. Any other websites or direction you'd like to offer people?
CorporateHeartInternational.com. We're actually reimagining all of our websites. So we're in a transformation, but we're delighted to talk to anybody, come to our wisdom groups. We're creating programs on gender dynamics intelligence for men and for women and together. So working together, that's one of our core programs. Anybody wants to engage us to do that, it's a fabulous experience and really get the creative juices running with your colleagues and your teammates. So we're up for anybody willing to step into that space of magical conversations.
Fantastic. And my invitation to finish up, if you're interested in more conversations like this with amazing humans like Pauline, please go to my website, hexochangenow.com, and subscribe so I can keep you updated. Just brilliant, Pauline. Really appreciate you. And again, sorry, Fran, I missed you out. Appreciate you being with us, Francisco, as well. So have a great day, afternoon, evening. Again, check out Pauline's Corporate Heart International. And yeah, you're a gift, my friend. Keep in touch. Have a great day.
You are amazing.